Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I have people come on here and we get a little bit of more perspective on their thoughts on movies. And this week we have Alex here back for a second round. Alex, my very close friend, and also hugs through the screen, and my co-host on the Development Hell podcast, and been frequent collaborator 2 times on this show. Definitely going to be coming on for some Scorsese. Yes. So excited about that. But Alex, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man. I love talking about movies, and like most people in our world these days, I love talking about myself. So thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, hey, true?
It's true. It's true. Yeah, man. Well, you know what? It's what you're doing is you're giving people the permission to express themselves, by talking about the movies they love, and I think so that's kind of a gift. That's pretty cool.
I have a lot of fun with it, and I think I'm pushing up to almost episode 60 on this. I've been doing this since last October. So I made it a whole entire year doing these interview shows. So this is pretty cool. But getting things started. So Alex, what's a previously released film that you have not seen yet that you're probably most excited to check out?
Damn, this is the one that I remember thinking about this one. Might have to come back to this one, unfortunately. But it's probably, man, Scorsese has done stuff that I haven't seen yet. Mm-hmm. I finally saw After Hours recently, so I can't say that one. I like that film, but this is one I might have to. If I pass and come back to this one.
We could do whatever the hell we want. So okay. There you go. I haven't seen After Hours yet, so that's one of the few narrative films of his that I have left on my journey that I haven't seen. It's that and New York.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one either.
I'm watching that this weekend. That's
cool.
So I'm going to be watching a 2.5-hour musical with Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro, which would not expect from Martin Scorsese.
Yeah,
I bet people are going to get shot and beat up and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is a Scorsese film.
Yeah, right, of course. Especially De Niro.
That's because Matt was just on for Taxi Driver. And, and boy, De Niro.
Oh, yeah, I know. But I think you'll like After Hours. It's very indie. Very indie. Rosanna Arquette is electric. She's got a small role, but my God, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. So
I'll be getting to that, checking my schedule. That's going to be posting the first week of December. So we're getting there. Moving along all the way up until June. But instead of something that has coming out already, what's a movie that hasn't released yet that you're most excited about, Alex?
A movie that hasn't released. I'm excited about the next Scorsese project with DiCaprio. Seeing the names that are attached to that. It's the Flower of the Blood Moon.
So the Killers of the Flower Moon.
The Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, because that. First of all, isn't it a Western?
Yes.
Has Scorsese ever done a Western before?
I don't think so.
Not really.
I'm wondering if it's going to have I think it's set in the same time period-ish as There Will Be Blood. So I have a feeling it's that kind of Western.
Oh, okay. So not a full-on Western. Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be cowboys and stuff like that, but it's still in that kind of vein about things. But how can you go wrong with the likes of DiCaprio and De Niro both being in the same Scorsese movie? Now they just need Harvey Keitel to join this movie and then you
Right.
just have the trifecta.
Exactly.
But Jesse
Yeah.
Plemons apparently is the main character,
Mm.
and also John Lithgow and Brendan Fraser are both in supporting roles in the film. So like they're really like packing out the cast here, which is interesting.
Interesting.
I've
Yeah.
seen a few set photos, and it looks very time like
Mm.
accurate with what they're
Interesting.
going for. And the discourse on the internet when one of the big news reporting movie magazines posted a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio in like older clothes, and it's like an unrecognizable Leonardo DiCaprio, and everybody's like, it's very obviously Leo. Who you kidding? So it's like there's very few films I think I've seen Leonardo DiCaprio in where I'm just like, oh my god, I didn't realize that was Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's yeah, it's pretty much him. Yeah.
No, it's not like that Batman trailer that just came out, and chunky Italian mobster guy or New Yorker mobster guy, the Penguin's actually Colin Farrell.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's not like that sort of thing.
No,
No, you can tell.
but
I've seen a few stills, and you can tell that it's him, but those two together, DiCaprio and Scorsese, it's almost a grand slam every time. And De Niro being part of it, it'll be interesting.
mhm.
I wasn't big into The Irishman, with De Niro and Scorsese directing. There were some great moments, with but you know, it's gonna be really interesting to see all that put together.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's an Apple film. So like
Oh, oh,
Apple owns the rights to it because like they bankrolled like half the movie. So
wow. Holy
because
moly.
it was like $180 million budget.
Really? Oh, damn. Holy crap.
Scorsese thinks he could just go out there and do whatever the hell he wants budget wise, and it's just like that's the thing. It's like his movies don't
Yeah.
make that much money. Just act silence, unfortunately.
Right. Because Silence, right. Exactly. I'm surprised. Yeah. No, well, I'm not surprised that Silence didn't do that well. But Silence was that movie's a kick to the chest.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Now, Alex, what is a film? So, like, here's the thing. A lot of people complain about remakes happening just all the time because lack of original thought. But what is a film that you really do wish would get remade?
I actually have this is my favorite question. One of my favorite questions that you gave me. Um, it's a movie called The Blood of Heroes. You may have never seen it. It's with Rucker Hauer
Okay.
and Joan Chen. And it's about, you would dig it because being the Wasteland Reviewer, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world
Mm-hmm.
where these people they're called juggers they have to fight against one another in this very brutal sport to put a dog skull on a stake. There's two stakes at opposite ends, and they have to put a dog skull on the stake. It was directed and written by David Peoples, who also wrote I think the final screenplay for Blade Runner. And it's a really well shot movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very one-dimensional plot. It's basically like anybody, if you look it up on the internet, IMDb, people describe it as like Rocky in a post-apocalyptic world. It's got that redemption factor to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the scenes of them like fighting each other with the chains and the sparring with each other, it's like American Gladiators post-apocalypse. Is really beautifully shot, and it's just intense and brutal, and there's something beautiful about it, and it's gritty and it's dirty, and you could tell that the actors really put themselves through hell to kind of make it. Delroy Lindo's in it, and he's
Nice.
fantastic in it. Vincent D'Onofrio is in it. He's great in it. And there's some great music in the movie too. And it's one of those movies that I think a lot of people will watch and think, okay. But when I saw it, I thought it was awesome. I really kind of fell in love with it, but no one really has a whole lot of appreciation for it. I think Joan Chen was like an internationally known actress, you know, and Rucker Hauer at the time was still kind of like big enough in Hollywood when it came out. I think came out like the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
He was big enough to kind of like be in a movie and be the big name, but he wasn't going to put a whole lot of butts in the seats, you know, anymore at that point in his career. But I always liked him, and I just like the idea of it. I think someone could come along and, you know, I'd take anybody, take Chris Pine, or take someone who's kind of falling off the edge a little bit, surrounded with a good cast, you know, and have fun with it. And instead of making it just like an 85, 90 minute, like, you know, post-apocalyptic movie, like actually, I don't know, maybe try to make it like closer to 2 hours, you know, try to make like a 2-hour movie with some real, maybe a plot that's got a little more meat to it, you know, other than I have to get back to the professional game sort of plot. And I think it could be really cool. You know, I think if somebody can get a hold of it and do something special with it, I think they could remake it and just have a lot of fun with it. You know, I don't know if it'll ever happen because the first one didn't. I don't think it made very much money. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of it, but it was just a cool movie. It was just a cool little, you know, low budget post-apocalyptic movie. You know, it was. I mean, dude, it was really like Mad Max meets Rocky. You know, like that's the best way I could describe it.
Well, have my money.
It's got
There we go. I will be there opening weekend. So, and that's the thing too, because like I feel like the films that are best remade are the ones that had a great concept or an idea, but maybe the plot failed it. Because like that's the thing, you gotta have a great idea, but what's going to be the driving force of the movie? So that's an interesting one. Now, I know my first round, I asked what's the earliest memory going to the movies, but Alex, what's your fondest memory going to the movies?
I think I talked about like my favorite one on your last episode. So I'll talk about a fond memory. I went to a drive-in with my friend Adrian when I was in California, and we saw. It didn't matter what we saw. We saw the Maleficent 2, you know. You know, but this drive-in, have you ever been to a well, you have been to a drive-in. Yeah, you've been to some drive-ins.
I've been to an actual drive-in where it's like set there, like it's been there for decades, and I've also been to a makeshift one at a Navy Yard. So there you go.
They put it together. Yeah, I've seen a few of those, but this was just like that. This was an original drive-in, big giant screen, huge parking lot. For some reason, the parking spots were on humps. Like when you would drive, you would start like your car would go. It was her car. She drove, and it was like dum 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 dum. And so we were like on this hump with her Adrian's. The front wheels of her car were actually like raised in the air, and we both kind of like, you know, we were together in like the back, basically the trunk of whatever her car was, you know, with blankets, because this was in some part of California, but it was chilly. It was chilly because I think we had gotten into fall, and when the sun goes down, it can get pretty chilly. And so we had, you know, the blankets, and we were eating some cheeseburgers and French fries, and just watching this movie. If you looked to the right, you could see the Joker playing on another screen. You couldn't hear the audio because the audio is coming from your car radio.
Yeah.
But it was just cool to look over and see Joaquin Phoenix, you know, like, oh, I saw this part of the film, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting because at the Delsey Drive-In that I've been to a few times, it'd be like, watch it. Jess and I went to go see The War with Grandpa. So some real high-class De Niro work. And they had Harry Potter on the other screen. And every time I'm just like, this movie's dumb. What part of Goblet of Fire are we in?
Oh.
I'm just like looking over it. I'm like, I'm like, I know this movie from start to finish. So I
It's
can
kind of funny, right? I mean, it's kind of a movie experience you don't get to have very often.
Mhm.
We didn't really grow up with that. But I mean, imagine our parents and before them, like that was like a
Oh, when
big
I
part
told
of
my
the.
dad he went that we were going to the Delsey Drive, and he's like, oh, Delsey Drive-In. I had a lot of memories of Delsey Drive-In. Did a lot of things at the Delsey Drive-In.
Of course.
I'm like,
That's right. That's right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks, Dad. So,
All
but
right, all right, all right.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. The drive-in's an interesting experience. And the first ever drive-in I went to was to go at the Delsey Drive-In and saw Unhinged, that Russell Crowe, like road rage movie that came
Oh,
out last year. And I'm just like, well, this is fitting to be
yeah.
sitting in my
Actually, that's
car
not,
watching
that
this.
sounds like fun, actually.
And then I did see Tenet at a drive-in, which was an interesting experience.
Huh.
At least I could adjust the volume
Sure. I
because, a Nolan film in a theater is oppressive.
don't know
So,
why. Yeah, we can talk about Tenet. I feel like we should have watched that with like a billionaire and a skyscraper for some reason. I don't know why. It just felt
well, I can,
money.
when I'm ready, I can watch it on my 4K and get the
Okay.
real experience, right? So I've definitely seen that discourse because like Dune came out on HBO Max yesterday, and I will be seeing Dune in a theater tomorrow.
Damn.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's like I wasn't, because like if Joe wasn't really pushing to go see it with me, I would have just watched it at home. I had it
Sure.
on HBO Max. I'll watch it 2.5 hours at home. But like,
Yeah.
so I will see it on a screen because apparently I need to. Because if you don't watch it on a big screen, you didn't really watch the movie. Some people have tweeted.
Really?
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And you know what? So not to go off on too much of a tangent, and I think this is an interesting thing because like the drive-in is a fun experience. I don't know if it's the most ideal place to watch a movie for the first time, but like I saw some interesting thoughts on like, because I think about some of my favorite films. I didn't see them in a theater. Like I've seen all Lord of the Rings in a theater. So, well,
Sure.
I saw 2/3 of Fellowship of the Ring in a theater because my aunt didn't check the times right, and we had to leave 2/3 through the movie. But like I've seen Fury Road in a theater, but like I didn't watch The Road Warrior in a theater. I didn't watch 2001 in a theater. Didn't watch Ben-Hur in a theater. Didn't see the big.
Yeah.
I have seen literally one Coen Brothers film in a theater, and that was Hail Caesar. Everyone else I watched on TV. And it's just
Sure.
like that didn't stop me from falling in love with all these movies. So like I feel like that kind of thought is a little much where it's just like
I think I think it's a little short-sighted, you know. I at the same time I think it's short-sighted when people say we don't need the movies anymore, you know, let's we just watch everything at home. I do think there is value to going to the theater and seeing a movie on the big screen, but Blood of Heroes, I saw that when I was working at a Hollywood Video. Or I'm sorry, well, building up to me working at a Hollywood Video when I was in high school. And there were a lot of movies that I saw because they were DVDs that someone bought me for Christmas, or because I rented them. For me, I always enjoyed going out to video stores and renting movies from video stores and experiencing them at home.
I used to do that a lot. I remember seeing parts. The first time I ever seen anything of Monty Python and the Holy Grail was walking around the Wow Video in my hometown.
Yeah.
Just hearing it because like, what the hell is this movie? Because I had no idea what the hell it was. And now in hindsight, I could just hear it's like, what is your quest? What is your favorite color? And just like that's what was playing in the Wow Video as I was walking around was that whole bridge scene from Monty Python.
Right. I love that. I love it when they do that. I love it when they put stuff on. Whether you heard of it, didn't heard of it, first time you see it, I love it because it's like an instant recommendation. So I think there are arguments to be made on both sides. I don't think you have to, I think if you're going to Dune, because visually, you're going to get a bigger image. I get it, I get it, but at the same time, oh God, I said I wasn't going to bring him up. All right, never mind. Can you just keep the next question?
Moving along.
I didn't say his name yet.
He who should not be named. Now, Alex, what's a film that really exceeded your expectations when you saw it?
Yeah, I probably spoke about this last time, but the answer, was and is still is, and it's still a Drive. I can't talk enough about that movie. Some people talk about certain albums, like it's like the soundtrack to their lives, and there's something in that album that's special to them. That band did that thing, and it's alive for you. Drive has that, I think, for a lot of people. Nicholas Winding Refn, he just tapped into something, being not being from a different country, coming here and experiencing not just Los Angeles, but also just America, and specifically his kind of dreamy, violent, magical sense of LA.
Yep.
And then kind of broadcasting that out to the rest of the world. I was living in upstate New York when I saw it. I saw it in theaters. I had no idea what I was getting into. I've seen the movie, a bunch of times since then. And there's still something that, like, you walk away from that movie and it's like, I got to go for a long walk and like question things after
and play a night call as you're walking around.
Such a good song too. They could have put that song, like over Jason Sudeikis, trying to milk a cow or something, and it still would have sounded good. But
wait, isn't that a Mumford and Sons music video?
That's where my mind went. Yeah.
Like,
you still with me? Yeah, that's funny.
So between Kaminsky and College, there's some great music in that film. And I remember that was at the point in my life where I didn't really go to the movies very often. Like, we didn't just go out to the movies. It was expensive. And like, I would invest in like my movie collection. And I remember buying Drive because I heard so much buzz around it. And I remember popping that in for the first time and watching it, just being like blown away by what I watched, and like thinking about like Ryan Gosling, that kind of jump started that character that he'll play in certain films, like that really dark, stoic Ryan Gosling. And like Bryan Cranston's great in it. Ron Perlman is just Ron Perlman, but like Albert Brooks. This is the dad from Finding Nemo, mind you. And like, which is interesting, having just watched Taxi Driver, with him being basically the comic relief character in it. And like seeing Albert Brooks in other things like broadcast news and stuff like that, but then seeing him in Drive and him still being like really darkly funny, but like so intimidating. I never once thought I'd be intimidated by Albert Brooks, but he kills it.
He does. I think that's the thing that's scary about that character, is that, and him as a person, like there's something sweet about him that comes across in the characters that he plays, and that still comes across, but now it's laced with, like, I own you.
Yeah.
And I'll do what I have to do with you. And it's really scary.
I care about you, but if you're gonna lose me money, like, I can't let this go. And like what he does to Bryan Cranston in particular, that was heartbreaking, like watching that. And then you have Carey Mulligan, Oscar Isaac, Christina Hendricks. Like, there's a lot of really talented people in this movie. And like, look where some of them are now. Like Oscar Isaac just blew up.
He was
after
amazing in that. He was great in that.
And Drive's a special one. That's a
yeah.
Wait, when did Drive come out?
To 2011. 2011. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
so come December, I think I know what Alex's pick's going to be for us to figure out what 2011 film we're going to watch.
We might as well. Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea because we talk about it all the time, and there's something very, very special about that movie. Yeah, I don't think that his Winding Refn, not all his films are like knock it out of the park for me.
Yeah.
I think, the two films he did after that were very good, but Drive was, all right, screw it. I'll say one film, just one of his films. I'm not going to say his name. Right after Pulp Fiction, it's the Cat's Pajamas for me, man. It's just like, it's that album. It doesn't die. It won't die. Pulp Fiction doesn't die. Drive just doesn't die.
Keep just watching it over and over again.
It keeps having resonance, so it's insane. It's insane.
Now, Alex, shifting gears into another form of art, thinking about a written work. What's one written work that you would love to see adapted into a film?
Yeah, I don't read a lot, so I'm not the best person to ask this question. But I will say that the book that was inspiring to me like 5 years ago was a book called Iron John, and it's actually a book. If you did find it in a bookstore, it might be in the self-help section, it might be in the philosophy section, but it's actually a book that's good for like young men to read when they're kind of at a time in their life where they're feeling really uncertain about like where they're going and what path they're on. Because the author, his name is Robert Bly, and he started having like men's groups in the 1980s, and he started really examining the experiences of men and women, but more particularly men, because what he was noticing was that women were starting to form groups, and in at least in middle class, upper middle class arenas, they were more confident, and there were all these books about women's empowerment and all these things. But he was noticing that men just like weren't talking to each other, and a lot of men were talking about missing a father figure, not having a father figure growing up, and not having a mature idea of what it was like to be with a woman in a real way. And so in a mature way, in an adult way, in a way that you would evolve to have with a woman. And so in the story, there's not the story, but during the book, he keeps on alluding back to this Grimm's Brothers fairy tale that was about a young boy who gets taken away from his parents by this wild man, and then he has to go through these different trials, and he works in a kitchen, and then he works in a garden, and then he eventually becomes a knight. And there's all this symbolism in it. And if you don't read it like that, like it'd be like, okay, it's just like a random fairy tale. But if you can look at the symbolism and analyze the symbolism, there's a lot of depth to what the Grimm's brothers were trying to say. And Robert Bly really pulls stuff out of it. Maybe Robert Bly probably pulls more stuff out of it than the Grimm's brothers even intended. But I thought the way that the fairy tale ends is really sweet, and it always makes me cry when I read it. And I think that Iron John is a story that I think not just men, but I think women need. I think people, need that type of story to kind of see a path to be able to accept themselves, forgive themselves for sins or things that you're not supposed to feel or not supposed to do, and be able to kind of see it as a greater part of a whole on your journey. And if you could have a movie that kind of explores it, which movies have, movies certainly have had, that sort of thing going on. But if there's a way to kind of write a screenplay that kind of captures the essence of that Grimm's Brothers fairy tale, I think that could be a lovely little, story,
There we go. It's really interesting. Like where my mind was going with what you were talking about, it's some kind of like strange, like hybrid narrative documentary, and like visualizing the story while cutting back and forth between like what the book was actually talking about. Just creative juice is just flowing.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe like a Robin Williams Goodwill Hunting thing over here, and then like the fairy tale thing going on over here. That's another way to do it, like a real world thing here and then a fairy tale. That'd be another way to do it. That would be more like the book, I don't know. I don't know. I certainly am not going to try to write it, but I think it'd be a very ambitious project.
We need to get somebody who we're going to get Terry Gilliam to adapt this, and it's going to be bleeding between like reality and this narrative, and have some fun with it.
That could be kind of special. There was a movie, I don't know, you just made me think of a movie called, who were the actors in it? Was it Haley Joel Osment? No, was it Haley Joel Osment? Way back in the day? It might have been him. And Michael Caine. Was it Morgan Freeman? It was called The Lions something.
Secondhand Lions.
Yeah. It would have that feel to it. It would probably have that same sort of feel. It'd probably have the same sort of feel that like a movie like A Life of Pi would have.
Or I was thinking like maybe like Big Fish.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. It would have that same sort of aura. It would just have to be, that's it. If you have a talented, couple of few screenwriters, maybe they could make Iron John a realistic movie, a realistic, thing to be made into a movie. It would be cool.
There you go. Ideas. Now, shifting gears into, now we see them all the time. They're there to try to hook us into movies. Alex, what is your favorite movie trailer?
Well, I probably, I don't know if I talked about it on the last episode of this.
I know we did our podcast about trailers.
The answer is the same. This is a great example. You know what it is. It's X-Men Days of Future Past. That trailer just is like, oh man, that just gets me every time. Like, it really does. It's one of those situations where the trailer might actually, and I'm not saying I like the movie. I think it's the best X-Men movie that was made, but the trailer's so good, the trailer might be better than the movie.
Well, it's one of those, like that moment where you had the two Xaviers like face to face with each other. Like that was such a profound moment that captured exactly what this film was trying to be. Like bridging that gap. Yeah. And I just remember seeing the Sentinels and Magneto carrying RFK Stadium around and just like,
wow.
And it's just like, holy crap.
That's insane.
And like the first time we saw the shots of the future in the X-Men universe and just being like, it went there. Like this is like post Skynet, like Sentinels have taken over kind of thing. Because I remember sitting at midnight premiere for that at Cinemark and them having that Terminator open basically with like all the mutants that are left being put into camps and stuff like that, and having the Sentinels. When that camera cuts down to that belt on that dead body and just the X symbol, and then the original like X-Men X2 score hits in, and I'm just like da, 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 and I'm like, oh my god. And but like the hype was so real for that after I saw those trailers, and like you have something special. And like for me nowadays, if I can watch that trailer over and over and over again, because I will, because I go to the movies enough where I'm forced to, it's a good trailer. Because like
Totally.
even something as stupid as like the new Jackass trailer, like I still chuckle at it. It pops on, no matter how stupid it is. But like you have a really good trailer when it's just like you get excited when the first moment you realize what trailer it is.
Sure.
And like I'm looking forward to it, but like I can't stand watching the Eternals trailer anymore. The new Marvel movie. I'm just like, God, this movie needs to come out right now because I can't watch this trailer anymore. Or like, I don't know, I've even got tired of this new Spider-Man trailer, No Way Home, but like one that really grabbed me was that new the Batman trailer. I could watch that over and over and over again, and it just like captures the imagination of like, this is a different, because like people are like, this is a completely different take on the character, and it's just like, this feels so different.
Wow.
And
so
that. Like that grabs you, and like, because I know my favorite trailer that I talked about during our podcast episode being the Fury Road trailer, because like I could watch that just on repeat over and over and over again, just the bombast and the insanity, because I remember it's hard to capture hype of something you've been waiting for so long. And when that trailer dropped, I'm like, this is beyond anything I could have imagined this to be. And I need to see this movie right now. And, when you get that kind of feeling, and like that Days of Future Past trailer grabbed me like that. That was something special.
Well, I think it's like you have this relationship to these characters, and it's been building for, at this point, it's been decades, whether it's Fury Road or X-Men, or, even if it's a filmmaker that you just love their films and you're anticipating it, but there was something, you already have a relationship with these characters, and the backdrop of that story. And so you're already in it. You're already so tied to it. And so, it makes sense.
Like building specifically off of that, because the Days of Future Past trailer is my second favorite X-Men trailer, because behind the Logan one, that first Logan trailer with Hurt by Johnny Cash, like I can't imagine a better use of that song in a movie trailer than to capture the decaying being that is Wolverine. Yeah. And like him barely being able to release his claws without so much pain, and like that whole trailer just got me. But we'll talk about music in a second.
That's right.
As in right now. So what is your favorite use of a actual song in a movie?
An actual song, like a soundtrack song.
So like we're gonna talk about score in a second, but specifically like an actual song.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but the one that comes to mind, The Fighter, David O. Russell, director, Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And what's so cool about it was a song. It's called Strip My Mind, or Don't Strip My Mind. That's not a hit. It wasn't a single. It was a deep cut. It wasn't a deep cut. As far as I know, it wasn't a single. It was off of Stadium Arcadium.
Yep.
And that had Danny California, Snow.
That whole double album is just like nonstop hits.
Yeah, it's true. There are a lot of singles like, Tell Me Baby, Humpty Bump, Desecration Smile, which that was my favorite single. But this song just, it hits, and you hear the guitar, you hear John Frusciante's background vocals, and you hear Anthony Kiedis singing, and I'm just smiling, I'm grinning ear to ear more than anybody else in the theater because I love these guys. And it was a very good song to play at that moment in the film because he's fighting this brokenness. He just got beat up in the ring by somebody who outweighs him by 20 or 30 pounds, and everybody's trying to tell him what to do, and he gets up and he puts on his stuff and he gets back out and he starts running, and you hear the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing. I just thought it was just a great use of a deep cut from obviously one of my favorite, if not my favorite bands. So that's one of my favorite uses of music.
I am surprised you didn't bring up a certain somebody.
I'm not doing it, man. I'm very careful. Okay, so with his movies, everyone watching who's going to comment, the reason I'm not mentioning his name is because we have to try to have movie conversations without bringing up his name. I love him, but he is the master at that. It might be here's the critique. It might be the best thing that he does. Okay. Oh, fuck it. Tarantino. Okay. Screw it. Let it go. Let the cannons roar. Tarantino. That might be the funniest thing is that might be top 3 of his skills. Like that's one of his top 3 things that he does is the way he uses music. I could go on for in Mexico, in Death Proof, come on,
the Latin music cover of Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood when the bride's
I'm done, Shane. This interview's over. I'm done. Yes.
Just
yeah.
Because when we were talking about trailers, one of the first trailers that popped in my head was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Kicks, and that, and then Neil Diamond's Brother Love's traveling Salvation show. Like, just be, because like I've listened to so much of the music from that movie at this point.
Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, because like it really captures, like, I love 60s and 70s music, and there's so many like Paul Revere and the Raiders, and just like that kind of stuff just popping in there. And it's true, he knows how to do it, because like it's him. And then everybody pays attention to how Edgar Wright's going to use music in his movies, how James Gunn's going to use music in his movies. It's just like there's those people that just do it. But then you have those moments where it's like you just hear like the perfect song, and Give Me Shelter 50 different times.
It's like, that's good. I like the Stones.
Stones.
The Stones are great. Yeah.
And like, well, and even like Departed, like obviously they use Give Me Shelter in The Departed, but like Dropkick Murphys. Like,
that's a good, that was
talking about Boston and like just setting a tone there.
Right.
But now shifting gears into, instead of songs, but scores. What's that score that like gets you every time?
Well, oh man, I think there's some that pull on my heartstrings more than others. I think the one that I was going to mention was Blade Runner's score, because Vangelis, it's so unique. I mean, nothing else sounds like that. To this day, nothing sounds like that. And it really does, especially the scene where Rutger Hauer does the line and does a little bit of the ad lib of, like Tears and Rain, the way the music kind of like goes with that, it really, really pulls you in. And then all the sound effects, and I know that's not all him, but there's a lot of beautiful music in that movie. Just the way he designed the sound of that world.
Well, and that's so interesting because Blade Runner 2049, it's not a similar score, but it's the same idea where it's like there's a soundscape here that's just unique to this film. And that's Hans Zimmer and Barry Wallfish together did that. And like to be perfectly honest, and I never even thought about this, but like so many of the pieces of score that I wind up listening to are just Hans Zimmer music.
He's done a lot.
Because
he's done a lot of big time scores. True Romance, Rain Man were like the early ones, right?
mm-hmm.
And he's done the Batman films too.
Yep.
So.
The one that I probably listened to the most is the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest score because of two tracks. The Davy Jones theme with that like haunting organ playing, and then the Kraken theme, which is like one of the most bombastic scores I've ever heard. And it just sounds so much like a Hans Zimmer score, but like there's something like I sit and listen to that and it gets me pumped up more than anything else I could throw on there. Well, except for maybe the Fury Road score. Because like they're just high octane. But like Alan Silvestri actually created two of my favorite tracks that I like to listen to, and they're both Avengers themes. There's one particular piece of music from Avengers Infinity War, and it's called Forge. And there's a part in it, because like, I don't know if you've seen either Infinity War or Endgame at this point, but like there's a point where this is going to be like the most Marvel thing I could possibly say. Thor, along with Rocket and Groot, are in a giant space forge run by dwarves that are like giant dwarves. And Peter Dinklage is a giant dwarf. And they're forging an amazing axe named Stormbreaker. And like the music playing in the background is just absolutely beautiful and haunting and just captures it so perfectly well. And then it matches like one of the best hero moments ever in any superhero movie, when the Bifrost shoots down in Wakanda and Thor's just standing there looking badass as hell, and just like the Avengers theme kicks into high gear and you're just like, damn. And yeah, so that's the thing about scores. And obviously it's like there's so much talking about in terms of like favorite like superhero scores and stuff like that, because there's so many of them at this point. Or scores that really are very atmospheric, like Blade Runner, where it's something where it's like you're taken to a completely different place.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I almost kind of hesitated when you asked, because I have to admit, the first movie I had Blade Runner at the ready to answer for you, but the other score that kind of was like right on the tip of my tongue was Braveheart, and because it really gets into your heart, like it really like you want to just cry, like you feel it. And some of these scores, like the Pirates of the Caribbean too, like I've never seen Dead Man's Chest, but I remember the experience of seeing the first one, as well as like the Lord of the Rings movies, and some of these scores that are very big and bold and really tugging on those hero epic heartstrings. Whereas Blade Runner is kind of like, as beautiful as it is, it's almost like they kind of had to design it so that the humanity was sort of removed from it in a way, because that's the picture they were painting.
Yeah, because there's something sad and disconnected about it.
Yeah, very much.
Like that, like I love the Braveheart score. Oh my god. And that's such a beautiful score. And like James Horner made some amazing scores in his time, because like very moving scores. And like you brought up Lord of the Rings, Howard Shore did something special with the soundtracks of those on the scores of those films, because like there are like the big fellowship, like da, 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 da. Yeah, that kind of thing. But then you have like the whimsical like sincereness of like all the Shire themes and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That theme is beautiful. Yeah.
And then like the love themes with like Arwen and stuff like that. There's something like haunting and beautiful about them. And then there's some terrifying ones. Like when there's one particular one, I remember sitting in the theater. One of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had in a theater not watching a horror movie was when I was 12 watching Return of the King in theaters. And there's a scene where Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol are right out front of Cirith Ungol, which is like the castle of the Witch King. And when this giant pyre of like green light shoots up into the sky, and there's a score that kicks in that is terrifying. And Peter Jackson just starts throwing Dutch angles at you and these like creepy gargoyle shots all over this castle. And like there's something was frightening about it. I'm just like, I'm like, because like Peter Jackson started as a horror director, and you can feel that in certain scenes in those movies. Scary Bilbo,
he was scary. Yeah,
Scary Bilbo was scary.
It's disturbing too.
Yep. And like the scene with the ghosts in the lake in Two Towers, that scared the crap out of me when I was 11 watching that in the theater.
Sure.
And they're like the music just has such range in it too. And that's the thing. And it's like, obviously there's certain composers that have like their greatest hits. Like the moment that you watch Gladiator and really listen to the score during the Battle of Carthage, and then you just hear dun, 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 and you're just like, when did Pirates come on?
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And like, you know, the blah in like half of Hans Zimmer scores.
I know. He know that he's getting a lot of flack, of course, from the
I heard his Dune score is like absolutely fire.
Yeah.
And I'll be listening to it tomorrow.
Cool.
But there's something special because like, and like the guy that made Blade Runner also did the Chariots of Fire score. And
there you go. It's a real art, you know, and it's wonderful. That's the great thing about movies, is that it combines all these different talents together. You know, and all these different artists and creative minds together. And so it's kind of cool that it sort of created that. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of the last bastion of classical to like do classical music in a sense. I mean, you could learn classical music, and you could play classical music, but you're going to be playing to a very select audience, you know.
But then you throw it in a movie, whole other story.
Now you got a much bigger audience. Yeah. So there you go.
That is a very interesting point, because like, how often do people listen to like classical music? And then how many people listen to scores that is classical music, except just from a movie?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like, but I love this movie. It's like you could listen to like this isn't a score made for a movie, but I remember watching Excalibur in high school in my British lit class, and hearing O Fortuna coming on and just being like, holy crap, what is this? And like realizing like that's actual classical music. Like that's not like made for the score. It's like an actual classic score. And like Ride of the Valkyrie.
But it worked.
Yes.
It worked. Yeah.
Apocalypse Now, Daniel Bryan, Ride of the Valkyrie.
Sure.
So there you go. And still kind of uses that in AEW. Has a bit of a twist on it now.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I haven't been watching lately, but I'm happy that he's doing his thing again. So
yeah, I haven't watched like a full length actual wrestling show in a long time, but I watch every single clip that pops up on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm basically just watching it.
Where it's gone.
Now, We have one question to circle back to, but I will get to that in a second. My last regular question is always for this round of interview, because we all have our pet peeves about movies. Everybody loves movies, have those things that are just like, come on, stop it. So what's that one thing, Alex, that you want movies to stop doing?
I don't know if I have a specific answer for it, but I definitely I'm somewhat inspired by things that Charlie Kaufman has said about just art and the world, and the world in general. Is that I think he went to go see a movie and he walked out and he was depressed because the movie was perfect. And he said everything about it was perfect, everything. And he just thought to himself, it's just depressing to him because I guess because he felt like it was because it had no flaws at all to it. It was so well done that there was nothing for him to chew on. There was nothing for him. I think that, and I hope that Hollywood and other studios outside of Hollywood continue allow themselves to make movies that are imperfect and not perfect. You don't have to give us a narrative that that's always tied up in a bow. You don't always have to give us films that are perfect in a way. Good Will Hunting is a good example of a movie that really is imperfect. There are aspects of it that I don't even necessarily like, but there are also aspects of it that I love because it felt like they were doing something. They were staying true to the material that they wrote. I want Hollywood studios, don't feel like you have to wrap things up in a bow. Don't be afraid to kill off a main character. Don't be afraid to piss us off. We're not stupid. We're adults. Don't be afraid to piss us off. Piss us off. Like my theater director, when I went to St. Bonaventure, his whole thing was, shake him up, piss him off, and never be satisfied. Don't be afraid to shake us out of our boots. Don't be afraid to piss us off. And, don't insult our intelligence. Don't feel like it has to be a movie that has a perfect A to B to C thing. You can go to X and Y and Z and circle back and,
I'm trying to remember the film, but I saw somebody criticizing a film because it didn't have a 3-act structure. And I'm like, so?
Yeah.
Like that's where things go to fail, where it's just like you gotta check all these boxes off. It's like, no, you don't. Make the story and do it how it works. And that's the thing. I appreciate films that, buzzwords here, subvert my expectations. Because it's like, if I know exactly what's going to happen, then what's the fun in it? Like, obviously you could have fun with it, or you could challenge me, and that's a fine line between challenging you and in like a really satisfying way, and challenging you and just leaving you pissed off at the end. Glass.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, M. Night went there.
Sure. And he does.
That's one thing he does, is he goes there.
And over time, you kind of have more respect for him because he's willing to do that. He has his own way of it. I'm not a big fan, but I will admit, one thing I respect about him is that he does kind of go his own way, and he makes the movie that he wants to make. This very dark, kind of strange, but also damp and, way of presenting this world that he has. It's not really scary, but it kind of gets under your skin in an odd way. It's weird. It's different. He's different, and you have to keep the door open for those, those types of storytellers. And I hope that, when When I see, I haven't seen the new Predator movie, but when I see directors like that go off and make that, it's sad because he made a lot of money and that movie made money. But the movie he made before that, Shane Black, that was the best movie he ever did. He knew it too, and he knows it. He knows it. That was best.
I want more The Nice Guys.
Yeah, and we're not going to get it because that's not what the market calls for. And it's just
why that didn't make money.
It's just a shame. I don't know how. It's crazy because it's
hilarious. The character's a lot of fun. I know it's like a hard R movie because like it deals with like a lot of pornography and stuff like that. Yeah. But like I watched that movie, I'm just like, this is near perfect. Like, this is something that's just so much fun. It's so delightful to watch. And I care about these characters like almost instantly. Yeah. And Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are just absolutely perfect. Perfect together too.
Yeah. So yeah, situations like that where they need to kind of like, all right, we failed. Hey, should we fail again? Yeah, let's fail again, because the first time we failed, it was better than we got credit for. And if we have the money, we have the resources, we have the star power to believe in it, make a second one because it deserves it. The art deserves it, and I don't care what the business people say. There have been situations in time where people have been able to come back and make it worth it. Do it. Make it, make it count. Don't, but it's I get it. It's tough, but that's what I want Hollywood to do is just, don't be in studios. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make movies that are going to piss us off. That's why we love Scorsese, and that other guy I try to avoid talking about on every video is because of that very reason.
Both of them are just going to make whatever the movies they want. And nobody's going to stop them at this point.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to stop Scorsese is that nobody will give him money. But like they're going to give Tarantino money. So
whatever he wants. Yeah. But yeah, it's man, it's the Coens, it's Wes Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson's new, I saw the trailer.
Licorice Pizza.
It looks great.
Well, great. There's like, the more I think about it, the more there's so many films left in this year that are just like, dang, this is coming out. Dang, this is coming out. Because like we're getting a new Denis Villeneuve film, a new Wes Anderson film, a new Edgar Wright film within 2 weeks, like in the next week and a half. Like Dune and the French Dispatch came out today as we're recording this.
Yeah.
And Last Night in Soho comes out next weekend.
Okay.
Then we're getting a new Ghostbusters film, which seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. But like we're getting a new Guillermo del Toro film, Nightmare Alley. We're getting a new Spielberg with West Side Story.
That's right.
We're getting a new PTA film with Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily in that same category of like big, well track record directors, but like we're getting a new Adam McKay film, Don't Look Up.
Oh, right.
And like you have all these films, and you have new Coen brother film, and we're getting a new Matrix film. Like there's so many things coming out.
Before 2022?
Yeah, these are all coming out by the end of the year.
Huge. Yeah. Be a good time for people to get back to the movies, hopefully. Yeah.
We'll see. We're getting The Kingsman, finally. Because I'm pretty sure they delayed that prequel 7 times.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah. So many things floating around there. But going back, do you have an answer for a film that's like, what's on your watch list? Something that you haven't seen before that you really want to check out?
It's crazy. I don't, man. I'm sorry. I really don't have, I don't think I do. If I can think of something, the best I can think of, and it's not something, because I've heard good and bad about it, I've never seen Ed Wood, so I should probably see that.
I I really enjoy that movie. Don't bring it up in front of Matt.
I know Matt doesn't like it.
Matt,
Yeah.
no, I think and Matt just gets angry because Martin Landau won Best Supporting Actor over Samuel Jackson for Pulp Fiction.
Oh well, then I'm not watching it then. No, I'm just.
Because here's the thing: Martin Landau was great as Bela Lugosi, but it was like a legacy kind of thing,
Right?
because he's great in it. But
Mhm.
come on, Samuel Jackson should have won that just from that one speech at the end of the film. Like, how?
I know.
And I also would argue, Joel, like, that's the thing. The film has 3 leads in it, and they only pushed John Travolta as the lead.
As the lead, right? It didn't make really a whole lot.
Oh,
I mean, I guess he was in it most of the movie, So
well, that's the thing. Well, yeah. And what's interesting is he had no chance in hell of winning anyway, because Gump was coming.
That's exactly
Tom Hanks.
So, but that's the one. I mean, people have been telling me to watch that for years. So, I should watch that one.
I would argue it's up there, definitely one of Tim Burton's best films.
Yeah,
because like there's a level of maturity with it at that point in his career that I don't think you really saw in his other films. Because like it's not like a zany weird kind, like it is zany and weird, but like it's not the kind of thing, like there's a real heart to it, there's a real like connection to it, and there's a love in it. And it's not just like a weird genre flicky kind of film either. And Tim Burton didn't do a whole lot of dramas up to that point.
Right.
And like you do have Big Fish that came like, I think like 10 years later or so. But like Ed Wood, I think, was one of the first things where it's like, oh, I think Tim Burton's a really talented director.
Sure.
And not just like, he's an auteur, 100%. Like, you look at his films and like, there's a distinct look here.
He's exactly. Yeah, it's not always my cup of tea, but he's got his own sound, his own look, his own feel, Yeah.
German.
So it'd be good to watch a movie from a director like that can kind of strip that away.
German expressionism.
Oh yeah, was it then?
Oh, like if you watching Edward Scissorhands, like any of the parts with like where Edward's from and even his look is straight out of like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and stuff like that from like early German horror films and stuff like that. It's very much that way. And then you have like the first Batman movie feels very much like a noir, feels like old-timey like detective story kind of thing. And then they just let him do whatever the hell he wanted with Batman Returns, and that turned into just completely German expressionism. Even down to the fact that he named Christopher Walken's character Max Schreck, who's the director, who's the actor who played Nosferatu. So like even down to like stuff like that.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't know. I had no idea that was such a big influence on him. I don't know. You gotta love those first 2 Batman movies. I know some people
love those first 2 Batman movies.
I mean, and they're not my favorites, but there is something. There's something unique about them. That's for sure.
Because obviously we've seen so many Jokers at this point, but come on, how can you not have a ball with Jack Nicholson being like, what kind of place is this where a bat's stealing my press and this town needs an enema? And just like him just being the Joker was so much fun. Obviously there's something dark and demented about Heath Ledger's Joker. And then I don't even know what the hell to say about Jared Leto's.
I didn't see it, but it sounds like he didn't really get a chance to do much with it. Anyway.
No, they cut out like 90% of his scenes. So
not really.
What was the point?
He's a great actor. He's a really good actor. I think he is.
He is, and I'll be very interested to see him in his big fat suit and his Italian accent in House of Gucci.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
You got real firecracker. I'm just looking forward to listening to everybody's obnoxious Italian accents in House of Gucci, because like Lady Gaga is killing it.
He looks
Like,
good. She looks good.
Father, the Son, in the House of Gucci, and I'm just like, oh my God. And then Adam Driver doing his Italian accent. I'm just waiting for Al Pacino to come in with his. Just, I'm ready. My body's ready.
Al Pacino. Oh man. Oh boy.
Hey, the last duel I absolutely loved. So
Yeah,
Scott's killing it at 83 years old.
that's great. That's great. Yeah,
So
I want to see that. I want to see that.
it's a very interesting film. House of Gucci comes out in about a month. I'm ready to have a ball with it.
He directed that one too, right?
Yeah.
Can't stop him.
83 years old, having two films coming out within a month of each other. And he's going to do his Napoleon film that he's been trying to do for decades. And then apparently he's doing Gladiator 2.
No. That's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
I don't have no idea what the hell this movie's going to be, but you already have my attention. So,
Gladiator 2.
But now, I always wrap up the interview show by allowing my guest to ask me a question. So, Alex, what do you want to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
What's a performance that you were really inspired by anytime you've been watching movies by an actor who you feel isn't an A-lister, isn't someone that everybody knows about, is kind of someone maybe who kind of fell away from the conversation? Is there anybody like that who you just really inspired by their performance, actor, actress, male or female?
I'm a big fan of character actors, and I love finding those like supporting roles in movies that like really steal the show and stuff like that. And like obviously you have like big actors like Leo and like Ryan Gosling and Oscar Isaac, and that are like big name leading men at this point. But I always love the like journeyman character actors, or even someone who has had leading roles, but like I feel like still isn't somebody that's really appreciated as like a leading man. And I have to say, anytime I see Michael Shannon pop up in anything, it's just a revelation to watch. Like even something like Nine Perfect Strangers, which is this Hulu show that came out recently. It has Nicole Kidman in it, Melissa McCarthy, Bobby Cannavale, Luke Evans, Michael Shannon. And Michael Shannon is this weird, quirky dad in it. And because like every time you see Michael Shannon on screen, you're just expecting to be him like be intense as hell. And like being able to see him in like that, and even his small role in like Knives Out, or something like, I think one of the things that, and this is interesting because I have a love-hate relationship with the movie Nocturnal Animals.
Okay.
Because like the movie within the movie is like chef's kiss, like oh my God, I would just watch that movie. And like the stuff like the framing device of it, I'm just like,
okay,
just Amy Adams looking sexy, which not gonna argue with, but like I don't know if I really get as much out of. But like Michael Shannon in that as like this beaten down, dying like sheriff is such a great performance. And he just like anything that he pops up in, like even something like Man of Steel, I loved him as Zod.
Oh, that's right.
And he's acting on a whole other level in that movie.
Right.
And there's an intensity there. But like something like I just love Shape of Water. There's so many things that I love about that film.
That's right. He was the antagonist in that. That's right. He was a bastard in that.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was
He
down
was
to
the
like
best. I wasn't a huge fan. I didn't hate the movie. I thought it was a little overblown, but
hmm,
I thought he was a bastard.
like even down to things like when he's in the bathroom having the awkward conversation with Sally Hawkins and Octavia Spencer, where he's just like, you wash your hands once when you go to the bathroom. It's either beforehand or after. And like he washes his hands beforehand because he will not touch himself with dirty hands. But like he doesn't wash his hands after touching himself. And just like something so like the way that he's so committed to like in such that scene and the scene later where he's like having sex with his wife and basically like telling her to shut up and not say anything during it, where he's just like channeling that strange like masculinity about like shutting up women. And that's why he has this fascination with Sally Hawkins, who's mute. And it's just like there's something working here on a whole other different level.
Right.
And outside of Daniel Day-Lewis, I don't think you see more intense performances than like Michael Shannon. And I think I just appreciate every time I see him pop up in something, it makes me really happy. Because you have like him, John Goodman, like just sprinkling a little John Goodman into anything just makes me happy.
Same here. Yeah.
And like him, and the thing is, the Coen brothers really know how to find character actors.
Yes, they're the best at it. They might be the very best at it.
Yep. But yeah, I like that question. That was a good one.
And he is the thing about, and interestingly, Michael Shannon, he's not a great looking guy, but he's very unique looking. He has like a strong jaw and everything, but he's got this kind of like, he looks like he could be an alien. He looks like he could be just a rough around the edges trucker, so he's not for that.
He's not quite like Benedict Cumberbatch, who doesn't look human.
Right. He
just looks
like clay. He just looks like a clay Englishman.
But like, because I'm pretty sure Benedict Cumberbatch is an alien.
Yeah.
Like, if it turned out that he was an alien, I would not be surprised at all.
I saw him in something recently. It came out like 4 or 5 years ago. He played an really seriously dark show on, I think it was Showtime. He played a recovering alcoholic, and it was really refreshing to see.
Sherlock?
What's that? No, it wasn't Sherlock. I don't know what it was. I forget now, but it was really refreshing to see him play like a bruised, dark, like broken character, as opposed to, I just feel like he always has to be so quaint and strong. I don't know if that's,
or being a lizard.
What's that?
I think one of my favorite pieces of acting ever is Benedict Cumberbatch at performance of Smaug from The Hobbit. Him literally crawling around like an actual lizard in his motion capture suit. Was like, if you haven't seen videos of that, it's the most amazing thing ever. I'm like, I've never seen anybody commit that hard to playing a CGI dragon in my whole entire life. So
yeah.
But
I do want to say one thing. I do like Nocturnal Animals. And my problem with the movie is not all the stuff in the, Los Angeles hills, I think that might be some of the reflection of what John Ford is feeling being in that world. It feels very, like that's a lot of him in that.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah.
Because like that looks ripped right out of like a fashion shoot. Definitely. Like everything in those parts of the film.
It's empty, it's perfect, but it's empty. And the part of the film that struggles for me, I had to bring it up, was it's the stuff unfortunately, because you have such great actors there, but the stuff that takes place when they meet, Jake Gyllenhaal and Amy Adams meet up with each other again in New York, and they have those conversations. That stuff feels like they didn't nail whatever they were supposed to nail. That piece of the movie, it's only a brief part of the movie, but that piece of the movie doesn't really hit its mark. It kind of needed to, because when they're together, you kind of need them to feel like these people are going to fall in love. And it doesn't feel like there's I don't feel it. And so on the second and third viewing, when it's revealed to you what she did and how that hurt him, it doesn't have the same, and then you do kind of like, all right, let's get back to Texas. Cause like that stuff was like, what the fuck,
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to do something like that, and that's always the challenge of having multiple storylines going on at the same time, is if you don't make them all is like at least equally as compelling, you're going to have people sitting there being like,
let's get back.
Let's get back to the other thing.
That was
because the thing is, it's like, I know we talked about that with Morris Perros, where it's just like, I know like the middle act of that movie just didn't hit the same level as like the two sandwiching ones, and you're just
if that was like an independent film channel just like thing on its own, it would have been great. Like, hey man, remember that IFC thing we saw? It was like 35 minutes long, and they had the whole
dog.
Yeah, like it would have been. But as part of that entire movie, it was like, I don't know about this, like, so no, that's a good point. But I do love some of the performances in that movie, including Michael Shannon's. He's quite good. He was
very steely eyed, that mustache, cowboy hat. Cause like he got the Oscar nom, but Aaron Taylor,
that movie?
Yeah, Michael Shannon got Best Supporting Actor.
I didn't know that.
But Aaron Taylor Johnson got the Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
Who was the really disgusting, disturbing, like
he was amazing.
And that was such a challenging thing, because like they were like, I got, they're going to pick one or the other, which I will argue this every year. The most competitive awards always Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
To me, because there's always such great meaty supporting performances out there, and you have things like Brad Pitt beating Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, and beating both Al Pacino and Joe Pesci.
Wow.
And Anthony Hopkins, because Anthony Hopkins was nominated too.
Wow. That's a big names there, yeah.
And I remember years with 2013, I think it was, when Argo won Best Picture, because you had like Philip Seymour Hoffman nominated for Best Supporting Actor that year, Alan Arkin nominated for Best Supporting Actor that year, and there's always just like a murderer's row of just performances there. And I'm interested to see how the Oscars go this year. And I know I hear a lot of buzz right now that the big two lead performances are Will Smith and Denzel. Because Will Smith in King Richard, where he plays Richard Williams, the dad of Venus and Serena Williams.
Oh, wow.
And which I've seen the trailers, and I'm excited to watch that performance of his. And then Denzel Washington's Macbeth.
That's right. That's crazy. Oh yeah, my father covered that actually. Man, that'll be interesting. It's like, why Macbeth? Macbeth is so dark. Oh, Macbeth, of all plays I have to do, it's so dark.
Well, and Joel Cohen, and of course Frances McDormand's in it.
Right.
So
yes.
And I'm like, Brendan Gleeson's in it. There's a lot of great actors in it, and even just the tiny teaser that they've shown of it, it looks gorgeous.
Wow.
And I'm like, this black and white.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to be excited about the rest of the year. But
totally,
that's the show for this week. And Alex, it was always a pleasure having you on. And, you know, when I actually get around to doing third rounds and finish, I think I've tried to have 10 questions on here, and I have like 4 written for round 3. So I actually need to work on some more. But you know,
got time. You got time, man.
Got time, and we'll be having you coming on. I have you lined up specifically for Last Temptation of Christ. So that'll be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Yes, very much so. That's a great movie.
Mr. Keitel.
Yeah.
Is Judas. And Willem Dafoe's Jesus.
Still takes me about 15 minutes to get used to it when I watch it. So we'll talk about all that. Yeah.
It's very interesting seeing like a very like Harvey Keitel being in like Jerusalem.
Yeah, I know. I have buddies, you know, that have never seen Last Temptation of Christ, and every time I have to remind them like who's who, and they're always like, "Oh, yeah, I need to see that." Like, you know, once because they get kind of turned off because it's about, you know, it is a story of Jesus, it's a version of the story. When I tell them who's who, they go, "Oh man, I need to see that." Okay, so as long as Jesus is played by Willem Dafoe and Judas is played by Harvey Keitel, you're all for the Jesus story. Apparently, they just didn't cast it right the first time around.
So Martin Scorsese directs it. Time for some Jesus.
That's right. They're all for it. Yeah.
We'll be talking about that soon. But Alex, thank you so much for coming on as always. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.